Picture this. 15 millennia ago, you are a random nomad wandering around Eurasia. Your daily routine is ridiculously basic. Wake up, dodge death, scavenge for calories, dodge death a second time, and pass out. Every single day, without fail. One night, while chilling by a campfire in middle of nowhere wilderness, a weird rustling sound comes from the dark pitch-black perimeter. You totally freeze up. Suddenly, a pair of glowing yellow eyeballs blinks right at you out of the dark. Normally, any beast in that situation would either sprint away or chew your face off, but this creature just hangs out and stares. Something weirdly peaceful stops you from yeeting a wooden spear straight through its skull. That exact moment is basically where the whole concept of dogs kicked off. The wild transformation of apex wolves into domestic pups is easily one of the most absurd, mind-blowing, and flat-out hilarious chapters in planetary history, mainly because it did not go down how people assume. Ancient humans didn't sit down and execute a grand strategy. No caveman said, guess what? I'm going to tame an apex predator so it can hog my bed and throw a dramatic fit whenever I step out for 30 seconds. The whole thing was infinitely more chaotic. First, let's clear up a massive misconception right now. Modern dogs aren't some separate species that just naturally spawned out in the wilderness. From a strict biological standpoint, they are a heavily modified subspecies of the wild gray wolf, Canis lupus familiaris. Every single pooch on Earth, ranging from a terrifying German shepherd to an aggressively noisy chihuahua, traces its roots back to wild wolves. Which means, at some point in antiquity, humans and wolves had a crazy interaction that went completely off the script. But when did this bizarre alliance actually happen? Researchers have been violently debating this for decades, and honestly, they still haven't settled it. Current estimates place dog domestication somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago. That's a ridiculously huge time frame. The reason for this giant gap is that the archaeological record is absolute chaos. Fossil DNA doesn't lie, but it gets super messy, and prehistoric bones don't come printed with expiration dates. What we do know for sure is that dogs were the ultimate pioneer pets. Not cows, not horses, not goats. Dogs beat everyone to the punch by a massive margin. Humans didn't even tame horses until roughly 6,000 years ago, meaning dogs were already our best buds millennia before anyone figured out basic agriculture. This wasn't some calculated farming project. It happened deep in the Stone Age, likely multiple times across the globe, before humans even mastered baking bread. Which obviously leads to the real question. How on earth did this happen? This is where the story gets super wild, and where the classic fairy tale version of dog history gets completely pulverized. The traditional myth goes like this. A brave caveman stumbles upon a den of cute little wolf puppies, takes them back to his cave, feeds them, trains them, and boom! Instant hunting buddies. It's super heartwarming, highly dramatic, and completely wrong. Here's what nobody bothers to mention about wolves. Adult wolves are completely impossible to truly tame. You can raise a wolf pup from day one, shower it with affection, give it gourmet meat, and sleep next to it. But biologically, it remains a pure wild killer. It will always keep its wild instincts. It will always stay extremely dangerous, and it will always want to do chaotic wolf stuff. Modern zoos and wildlife sanctuaries have known this forever. The delusional fantasy that some ancient human tamed a wild wolf through pure bravado is the exact kind of thinking that gets a person mauled. So if humans didn't actively tame wolves on purpose, what actually went down? The primary scientific consensus, the one backed by real evidence that actually makes logical sense, is that wolves basically domesticated themselves. Read that again carefully. The wolves made the initial move. Sort of. Here's how the magic unfolded. As humans got way better at hunting game, they started producing something no other predator in the wild ever generated on this scale. Endless, magnificent trash. Dumped bones, discarded scraps, and random animal guts nobody wanted to eat. If you're a clever scavenger like a wolf, discovering a human camp is like finding a 5-star free buffet right in your neighborhood. So a select group of brave wolves, not the whole pack, just a few oddballs, started lurking around human campsites, sticking close and waiting for free meals to be tossed out. The real key here is the specific personality of these trash-eating wolves. It wasn't the giant, hyper-aggressive alpha wolves. Those guys wanted absolutely nothing to do with humans. The wolves stepping closer to the fire were the ones that were slightly less terrified, slightly more curious, and oddly relaxed around loud, fire-wielding, spear-throwing bipeds who kept throwing free bones at them. And guess what? Those chill wolves got fed. Meanwhile, the super-aggressive wolves who kept throwing tantrums and keeping their distance had a much harder time finding easy food, leading to lower survival rates and fewer offspring. Over countless generations, this created an environmental side effect that nobody engineered or foresaw. But wolves living nearest to human camps were naturally the ones with the absolute lowest stress levels around people, the calmest, friendliest, and most eager to approach rather than bolt. And obviously, their puppies inherited those exact chill vibes. And then their puppies did the same exact thing. Natural selection, operating with zero human planning, started nudging wolf genetics down a very specific path, straight toward us. Now, this is where things take a super weird sci-fi turn. Something happened that scientists didn't fully comprehend until a brilliant Russian geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev executed what might be the coolest, most underrated experiment of the 20th century. Back in the 1950s, Belyaev was working under Soviet reign, meaning his research conditions were insanely stressful. Soviet authorities back then literally labeled genetics as a capitalist pseudoscience, a sentence so absurd it takes a second to process. But Belyaev was a genius and found a sneaky workaround. He hid his genetic research under the cover of breeding foxes for the commercial fur industry. What he secretly did was selectively breed wild silver foxes based on just a single criteria: pure tameness. Every generation, he checked how the foxes reacted to humans and only allowed the least aggressive, friendliest ones to breed. That's it. Zero other physical criteria. What happened next was totally mind-blowing. In just a few short generations, we're talking mere decades, not thousands of years, the foxes started undergoing bizarre changes. They didn't just get friendlier. Their physical bodies literally began to morph. Their ears started flopping over. Their tails started curling up. Their fur lost its solid silver coat and sprouted random white and brown patches. Their faces got rounder. Their skull shapes changed, and their reproductive cycles shifted completely. They started making weird barking noises, seeking out human affection, and staring directly into people's eyes. They were literally turning into dogs right before his eyes. Nobody programmed them to change like that. Belyaev hadn't selected for floppy ears or spotted coats. He only selected for tameness. Yet, picking that single behavioral trait unlocked a crazy domino effect of physical traits that transformed wild foxes into something shockingly familiar. What Belyaev stumbled upon, and what scientists are still studying today, is a phenomenon known as domestication syndrome. It turns out that genetic pathways controlling tameness and low adrenaline are deeply linked to physical traits like ear shape and coat pattern. Breed for friendliness, and you get floppy ears as a free bonus package. Pick calm behavior, and sudden white spots appear out of nowhere. The biological package deal of domestication is way weirder than anyone guessed. More importantly, this proved that taming a species doesn't require millions of years. Under intense pressure, a wild animal's core biology can shift dramatically in just a handful of generations, which means those ancient camp-following wolves probably turned into dog-like pets way faster than historians ever imagined. Which brings up the big question nobody asks loudly enough. What were the humans doing while these wolves were getting friendlier? Because this was a two-way street. The wolves mutated, sure, but human behavior had to evolve right alongside them. At some point, an ancient human had to refrain from chucking a sharp spear at a giant predator hanging out near the campfire. Someone had to consciously decide that this wild creature was actually tolerable, maybe even useful, or maybe just cool to have around. Evidence suggests this breakthrough happened in multiple places independently. Genetic data strongly indicates dogs were domesticated more than once across different regions. East Asia, the Middle East, and Europe all display unique genetic signatures pointing to separate domestication events. This means the iconic meeting between humans and wolves wasn't just a single lucky moment. It was a repeated evolutionary pattern. Once humans realized that a semi-tamed wolf was actually a cheat code for survival, warning the tribe about approaching predators, tracking game, and acting as a living security alarm, the whole dynamic exploded. Suddenly, humans actively preferred keeping the friendly wolves around. They fed them extra food, let them crash near the fire, and slowly started selecting the best traits on purpose. Friendly wolves survived better around humans, and humans with wolves survived better in the dangerous wild. It was a massive evolutionary team-up, not because a genius planned it, but because it worked absurdly well for both sides. Now let's look at what domestication actually does to an animal's brain. Because dogs aren't just polite wolves, their actual psychology is completely different. One of the most fascinating mind tweaks is how dogs process human body language. If you point at a hidden object, a dog looks right where you're pointing. A wolf will just stare at your hand like an idiot. Even wolf pups, hand-raised by humans from birth, fail to understand pointing. But a newborn domestic puppy, even one with zero human experience, naturally follows your finger. It isn't a learned trick, it's hardwired into their DNA. Dogs have been genetically engineered over thousands of years to read human expressions better than any other creature on the planet. They even make direct eye contact with us, something wild wolves actively avoid. In wolf culture, locking eyes is a direct challenge to fight. But dogs hold your gaze to look for cues, instructions, and affection. When a dog gazes into your eyes, both of your brains flush with oxytocin, the exact same bonding hormone released between a mother and her newborn baby. You are literally having a chemical love session every time you make eye contact with your pup. Through a wild twist of evolution, a meat-eating predator that used to hunt us has been biologically re-engineered to love us unconditionally. Dogs even evolved a special micromuscle right above their eyes that wolves don't possess at all, the levator anguli oculi medialis. When a dog twitches this muscle, it makes their face look pitiful, vulnerable, and ridiculously cute. It's the exact muscle responsible for the famous puppy dog eyes look, and it was directly selected for over millennia because it completely hypnotizes humans. It triggers our brain to protect them and feed them. The dog accidentally evolved a biological brain hack to manipulate human emotion, and it works flawlessly every single time. You think you chose your pet, but its ancestors spent 10,000 years masterminding a way to make you adopt them. By roughly 10,000 years ago, just as humans were trying out farming and settling into permanent villages, dogs were already deeply embedded in our society. We know this because archaeologists keep finding dog bones inside ancient human graves. Human skeletons are buried right alongside canine skeletons, not as snack leftovers, but as beloved companions. Some of the oldest human dog graves show the dog placed carefully next to the owner, sometimes with a human hand placed gently over the dog's skeleton. These were ancient people who loved their dogs so much they wanted them by their side in the afterlife. Think about how wild that is for a second. The very first domestic relationship in human history was built on genuine affection, not just work or food utility. It crossed the line into what we define as true love. In a brutal prehistoric world filled with starvation, diseases, and terrible lifespans, humans were willingly wasting emotional energy and resources on their pets, mourning their loss and burying them with full honors. That emotional instinct is 15,000 years old, and we're still doing it today. Right now, someone, somewhere, is blowing half their paycheck on a ridiculous designer sweater for a tiny, useless dog and feeling zero regret about it. The psychological wiring hasn't changed a bit. So what happened next? Because a wolf eating garbage and getting slightly nicer is just the opening chapter. What followed is one of the most insane physical transformations in the history of planet Earth. Once basic domestication settled in, humans took full control of the steering wheel. Natural selection was replaced by aggressive, intentional human breeding. And humans went absolutely nuts with customization. Over the next few thousand years, we bred dogs for hyper-specific jobs: hunting, herding, guarding, pulling sleds, fighting wars, or just sitting in royalty's laps as living hand warmers. Humans exploited the hidden genetic code inside the dog genome to create an insane variety of shapes and personalities unmatched anywhere in nature. The speed of this transformation is mind-boggling. In roughly 15,000 years, which is a split second in evolutionary terms, we went from wild wolves to Great Danes and Dachshunds. We created the greyhound for pure speed, and the bulldog, which looks like a squashed loaf of sad bread, yet somehow radiates massive, chaotic energy. The sleek, dangerous wolf body, built by millions of years of natural selection, was completely dismantled and reassembled into hundreds of weird variations just to satisfy random human needs, jobs, or hilarious aesthetic moods. Modern dog breeds as we know them are actually a very recent invention. Most standard breeds were officially established in the 19th century during an era obsessed with elite pedigree standards. Detailed rule books were written detailing exactly how a dog should look, bark, and walk. This was the moment dog breeding shifted from "I need a good hunting hound" to a hyper-dramatic high society hobby. The Victorian era basically took a 10,000-year coevolution project and turned it into an obsessive show dog competition. Which brings us right to modern times and our hilarious relationship with these furry roommates. Today, dogs hold a status in human life that no other animal can touch. They sleep in our beds, live in our climate-controlled houses, and get written into legal wills. There are dogs with millions of Instagram followers, signature clothing lines, and lavish birthday parties. There is definitely a dog out there right now living a luxury life far superior to most medieval kings, completely oblivious to it all because it just found a dirty sock on the floor and thinks it won the lottery. We spend more money on vet care than some countries spend on national defense. We experience real crushing grief when a dog passes away. Grief that neurologically mirrors losing a human family member, because as far as our brain is concerned, they are family. We book expensive vet treatments for our dogs that we wouldn't even buy for ourselves. We talk to them, vent to them, apologize when we trip over them, and ask them about their day, knowing damn well they can't speak English, yet feeling like they totally get it. None of this was planned by ancient scientists. A brave wolf ate trash near a campfire, had slightly braver puppies, and 15,000 years later, a human is spending $50 on grain-free organic salmon bites for a creature that licks its own butt. Evolution is insanely patient and deeply hilarious. But here's the mind-blowing takeaway I want to leave you with. In almost every other case of animal domestication, humans were total dictators. We captured livestock, threw them in cages, and force-bred them for meat, milk, leather, and heavy labor. It was a one-way street. We demanded stuff, and they complied involuntarily. Dogs were completely different. From day one, dogs were active partners in their own evolution. They chose to step toward our fires. They adapted to us on their own terms. Their brains literally rewired to decode us in ways no other animal can match. And in return, we rewired our own brains to love them back. Researchers have shown that ancient human tribes with dogs survived significantly better than those without. Dogs were early alarm systems, hunting assets, and winter heaters. There is a very real, highly respected scientific theory that domesticating dogs was the secret cheat code that allowed humans to conquer the globe. Without dogs, human civilization might look completely different today. We didn't just invent dogs. In a very real way, dogs helped invent us. That wild wolf stepping out of the dark 15,000 years ago looking for free food wasn't just grabbing a snack. It was initiating a partnership that outlasted every ancient empire, language, and civilization in history. A bond that turned two completely different predators into something that feels like family. Next time your dog passes out on your feet, stares at your dinner with pathetic eyes, or goes wild with excitement when you grab your keys, just remember, you're watching 15,000 years of epic coevolution in real time. That bond was built slowly, accidentally, and at the cost of wild wolf pride everywhere. It was totally worth it for them. And honestly, it was totally worth it for us too.